I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jason, and I've been with Emily for over 10 years. We got married pretty young, and for a long time I thought we had a good, solid marriage. She was the girl I'd always wanted, smart, beautiful, confident. I used to think we had the kind of relationship that could weather anything. But the past few months, I started noticing little things that didn't add up, things that I brushed off at first but kept nagging at me. She was more distant, more irritable. She'd cancel plans at the last minute, say she was busy or tired, but her phone started acting weird. She'd hide it when I walked into the room or quickly grab it and turn away. She started dressing differently, more provocative sometimes, but I chalked it up to her trying to look good. Still, there was this nagging feeling in my gut that something was off. Then, about a month ago, I came home early from work. I wanted to surprise her, maybe take her out to dinner, but when I pulled up to the driveway, I saw her car parked out front and I saw her walking out of the house with Mark. Mark is a guy I've known for years, our friend really. He's trustworthy, at least I thought he was, but I caught them in the act. Emily was clutching her purse tightly, her face flushed, and Mark looked like he'd just seen a ghost. The way they looked at each other, it wasn't just friendly. It was more than that. I froze, just watching from the bushes. Emily saw me first. Her eyes widened and she tried to brush it off like she was trying to pretend I wasn't there. Mark looked guilty as hell, but Emily just smirked and said, "It's not what you think." That's when I realized she was lying again. She always had an excuse, a way to spin things, but I knew this wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. I saw them kiss, saw her hands on him. What the hell was going on? I didn't say a word that night. I just left and went straight to my brother's place. I needed to process, to breathe. But even then, I knew this was far from over. The next day, I started digging. Her phone has a passcode I never really cared about before, but I managed to get in. And what I found I can't even put into words. Texts, photos, messages, things she'd been hiding, lies she'd been feeding me. She was pregnant too, at least that's what she told me, but now I found out she's been lying about that too. It's not even Mark's kid. It's a total fucking lie. That's when I knew this was a betrayal on a scale I never expected. She'd been sleeping with our friend, lying about it, and now she's pregnant. The whole thing was a complete mess, a knife in the back, and I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I spent hours staring at the phone, trying to believe it wasn't real. But it was real. It is real. And I have no idea what to do next. The next morning, I couldn't even get out of bed right away. My head was pounding, my stomach felt like I'd been punched, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Mark again. That image burned into my mind, her lips on his, her hand on his chest, that stupid smirk she always gets when she's lying. The kind of smirk that says she's in control, that she's the one calling the shots. I felt anger, betrayal, heartbreak all at once, and honestly I didn't even know which one was worse. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. My mind kept racing, trying to come up with what to say, what to do, but mostly just trying to keep it together. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, I decided I'd go straight to her. No more hiding, no more pretending I didn't know. I wanted her to face me. She was still in bed when I went into our bedroom. She looked so innocent, so unaware of what I'd discovered. That's when I lost it. I told her I knew everything about Mark, about the affair, about the pregnancy lies. Her face twisted into some kind of bitchy smirk, like she thought she was so clever, so untouchable. She sat up, crossed her arms, and started telling me it was all a misunderstanding, that Mark meant nothing, that she was only with him because she was confused. Yeah, right, confused enough to sleep with our best friend at our wedding reception. She was a master at lying, but I wasn't buying it anymore. She argued, of course, said I was overreacting, that I was jealous or paranoid. She threw out lines like, "You've been busy with work. Maybe I just needed some excitement, and it's not like I love him, I swear." I could see the anger behind her words, the way she looked at me like I was the one ruining everything. Like I was the problem, but I wasn't going to fall for her bullshit anymore. I told her I knew she'd been lying about everything, her pregnancy, her excuses, her entire life with me. That's when she snapped. "You don't understand anything, Jason. You're just jealous because I still look good and I've got someone who actually makes me feel alive," she sneered. Her words hit me like a punch. It was like she was taunting me, rubbing it in that she'd been having sex with Mark and lying to my face about her pregnancy. That's when I realized she was a real bitch about it all, cold, manipulative, and completely unrepentant. I told her I was done. Done with the lies, the cheating, the fake family she'd been pretending to keep together. I told her I deserved better, that I'd be leaving soon. She just laughed and said I was being dramatic, that I'd regret throwing everything away over some stupid affair. But I knew better. I knew I'd been played, used, and she didn't care about me at all. She only cared about herself, her lies, and her damn ego. That day, I started packing. It was like I'd been living in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't even see straight. I felt crushed, angry, and so damn stupid for trusting her all these years. But part of me also felt this strange sense of clarity, like I finally saw who she really was, and I knew I'd never let her do this to me again. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I had to get out of this hellhole she'd created. Over the next few days, everything felt surreal. I couldn't focus on work, on anything really. I'd sit in silence, replaying all the moments I thought were perfect in our marriage, and then it hit me, how blind I'd been. She'd always been good at hiding her true self, hiding her lies behind that bitchy smirk of hers. I started questioning everything, how long she'd been cheating, how much she lied about. I found myself obsessively reading through her messages, her emails, trying to piece together just how deep this rabbit hole went. I didn't want to just walk away without a fight, though. I wanted to understand her motivations, her reasoning behind all the lies. So I decided I'd ask her one last time, face to face. No excuses, no bullshit. If she was going to keep pretending she was innocent, I'd hear it from her directly. I scheduled a meeting with her at the house, telling her I needed some closure. That's when she showed up, dressed in that same smug, bitchy way she always did, like she'd already won. She sat across from me with that cold look, trying to act like nothing was wrong. I started with questions. Why her? Why Mark? What the hell was she thinking? She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're overreacting, Jason. You're just insecure. Mark's just a friend and I'm pregnant, got him it. You're supposed to be happy for us." She kept lying. Said she'd never cheated, that the messages I found were taken out of context. She even had the nerve to call me paranoid, like I was the one losing my mind. I didn't buy any of it. I told her I'd seen enough, her lies, her manipulation, her betrayal. I told her I knew she'd been sleeping with Mark at the wedding reception, that she was lying about the pregnancy, that she'd been sneaking around for months. Her face twisted into this ugly sneer, like she didn't care that I knew. She told me I was an idiot, that I was jealous and insecure, that I was just mad because I'd lost control. That's when I finally snapped. I told her it was over. I told her I'd been a fool for thinking I was in a marriage worth saving. Her reaction. She just shrugged and said, "Fine, do what you want, but you'll regret throwing me away, Jason, you'll see." Her words didn't scare me, they made me angrier. I wanted to crush her, to make her feel what she'd done to me, but I kept my cool, told her she could go to hell and that I was done. That moment was a turning point. I realized I couldn't keep pretending she was the woman I married. She was a manipulative, selfish bitch who only cared about herself. I packed up everything I could that night, photos, her jewelry, some of her clothes, and left her standing there, still smirking, still lying. I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I'd loved her once, but she'd made sure I'd never trust her again. Now I just needed to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on. The days that followed were a blur of pain, anger, and confusion. I stayed with my brother for a couple of nights, trying to process everything. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her smirk, her lies, her betrayal. It was like a knife twisting in my gut. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her get away with this for so long. Honestly, I felt like a complete idiot for trusting her, for thinking we had some kind of perfect marriage. But the worst part was the realization that she was still pregnant. At least, she told me she was. I found out later that she'd been lying about the baby this entire time, that she'd gotten pregnant to keep me around, to manipulate me into staying. I was furious. How could she play me like that? Using a lie about a child, about a future we were supposed to build just to cover her tracks. It made me sick to my stomach. I knew I had to get some answers, but I also knew I couldn't just storm back in and demand them. I needed to think about my next move. I started talking to a lawyer, figuring out what rights I had, what I could do about the house, the finances, everything. But deep down, I just wanted to confront her again, tell her how much she hurt me, how betrayed I felt, and how I wasn't going to let her get away with it. One night, I decided to call her. No warning, just a cold, direct call. I told her I knew about the pregnancy lies, that I wasn't stupid. She tried to deny it at first, but I could hear the panic in her voice. Then she started throwing out more bullshit, saying she was sorry, that she was confused, that she still loved me and wanted to fix everything. But I didn't buy it. Not anymore. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, that I was done pretending she was innocent. I told her I was filing for divorce, and I'd be taking full custody of the kid if it was hers. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. She threw every tantrum in the book, calling me names, begging, trying to guilt-trip me into staying. But I was done. I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy liar who thought she could get away with anything. I refused to let her control me anymore. I blocked her number, cut ties, and focused on rebuilding my life. It hurt like hell, but I knew I had to move on. Looking back, I realized I was a fool for so long, trusting someone who was only out for herself. I learned that love isn't enough. It takes honesty, loyalty, respect. And if someone's lying, cheating, and playing you like a damn fool, it's better to walk away than stay and get crushed. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: she's not in it anymore. And honestly, that feels like a small victory. After I finalized the divorce papers, I felt like a weight had been lifted, but the emotional scars were still fresh. For weeks, I kept replaying everything in my mind. Her sneaky lies, her smug face when she thought she was getting away with it, the betrayal at the wedding reception, and the endless lies about the pregnancy. It was a brutal wake-up call that shook my entire world. I'd loved her once, believed in everything we had, but now I had to face the reality that I'd been completely played. I started going to therapy, not just to deal with the heartbreak, but to understand how I could have been so blind. It was honestly a hard pill to swallow, feeling like I'd let her manipulate me for years, thinking she was the love of my life while she was out fucking around behind my back. The therapist helped me see that her bitchiness and lies were just parts of her personality I'd ignored for too long. I learned to rebuild my confidence, to trust myself again, and to recognize red flags I'd missed before. Meanwhile, I had to deal with the fallout of her lies about the baby. I hired a private investigator to confirm whether she was telling the truth or just trying to keep me chained to her. Turns out, the pregnancy was a complete fabrication. No baby, no Mark's kid. She'd been using that lie to manipulate me into staying, even after I found out about the affair. That revelation hit me hard. It was like she'd taken something precious, my trust, my hope, and shattered it just for her own selfish game. I also started distancing myself from mutual friends who had known about her affair and didn't tell me. Some of them had suspected, but they didn't want to get involved. Honestly, I didn't blame them, but I also realized how toxic some friendships had become. I needed to surround myself with people who would support me, not people who'd keep silent while I got blindsided. I cut out the ones who were just pretending to be friends, and I focused on rebuilding my life from scratch. Most of all, I learned how important it was to set boundaries physically, emotionally, and mentally. No more letting her lies control me, no more excuses. I was done with her manipulative bullshit, and I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone treat me that way again. I knew I'd be okay in the end, even if it hurt right now. It was a painful lesson, but one I needed to learn. Trust is earned, and not everyone has your best interests at heart. Now I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I don't have her drama dragging me down anymore. I've started focusing on myself, getting healthier, reconnecting with old friends, and figuring out what I really want from life. Honestly, I still feel angry sometimes, but I also feel a strange sense of relief. I'm finally free from the lies, the betrayal, and the bitchy games she played. I deserve better. Everyone does. And I guess that's the only takeaway I can give. Trust yourself, watch for red flags, and don't let anyone make a fool out of you. Because once they do, it's hard to come back from that. Looking back now, I realize how much I've grown through all this pain and betrayal. It's been a brutal ride, one I wouldn't wish on anyone. But it's also taught me some hard truths about trust, loyalty, and the importance of listening to your gut. I used to think that love was enough to keep a marriage strong, but I learned that honesty and respect are the foundation. Without those, everything else crumbles. I've come to see that sometimes. People show you who they really are early on, but you're too blinded by love or hope to see it. Emily was good at hiding her true self. Bitchy, manipulative, selfish. She lied, cheated, and used her own pregnancy as a weapon. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it scars. But in the end, I refused to let her win. I chose to walk away, to start over, and to rebuild my life on my own terms. This experience has made me more cautious, but also more aware. I trust myself more now. I know I deserve someone who's honest, loyal, and respectful, someone who won't lie about a fucking thing. I've learned not to ignore the red flags, no matter how much I want to believe in fairy tales. Because the truth is, some people are just not who they seem to be, and it's better to see that early than to get blindsided years down the line. So, for anyone out there dealing with similar betrayal, don't ignore your feelings. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for questioning their actions. And most importantly, don't stay with someone who lies to your face and manipulates you for their own benefit. You're better than that. You deserve honesty and respect. No matter how painful it is, walking away is sometimes the only way to save yourself. I'm still healing, still putting the pieces back together. It's a long road, but I know now that I'll come out stronger. Trusting yourself again is the hardest part, but it's also the most necessary. Life goes on, and so will I. I might be scarred, but I'm also free. And honestly, that's the best feeling in the world right now.